upgrade of our what's new in FlutterFlow. What's new in FlutterFlow just came out in the 19th of May 2023. So we are talking about that right now. There are a bunch of great new features in FlutterFlow, and we are going to talk about the new data types, the upgraded data types. We're going to talk about the custom actions, dialogues. You can now paste styles inside FlutterFlow. There is also a custom breakpoints you can set up, AI-generated theme covers, Firebase batch writes, new features for faster building, and much more. So let's dive into it. Okay, great. So I will actually disappear right now, as my face is probably not very relevant to what we are going to talk. But let's start with the first new feature or update. So the update is related to data types. Data types were actually introduced like a long time ago, like 6 months or something like that, but they were not actually very good integrated into FlutterFlow, and you were able to use them only strict with Firebase. If you have Firebase, you can use data types, which are not particularly embedded with Firebase. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to actually use Firebase in order to use data types in general when you're coding. So that's why the first actually update that FlutterFlow did is actually to move the data types away from Firestore. And let me show you how that actually looks. If you go to your project, I set up my what's new project. And if you go to your project on the left side, you have data types right now. Previously, that was in Firestore. And here you had data types. You had here collections and here data types. But because data types are actually, like I said, not related not related, but actually not strict to only Firestore, because you can actually use data types in Firestore, you can use it in Superbase, you can use it API calls or whatever backend you're using. So that's why it is actually great update to extract this in its own menu, which is called data types. And here they say that define your own custom data types that you can use throughout your app, such an app state, Firestore, custom code, and more. So actually, you can use in the app state as well. I don't think that you were able to use it before, and I like the car one. So I will have like the car data type, and the whole idea of the data type. If you don't know what is a data type, the data type, you can imagine it is like a variable which is actually have variable inside of variables. So for example, if I have my example of cars, I can have something like doors, and the doors will be an integer because it will be like how many doors my car has. Or for example, if I have like the color, and I will have like color here, which is what is the color of the car. Or I will have like wheels, for example, which would be how many wheels the car have. But usually the car have 4 wheels, I think. So this is not very relevant. So what about the owner? So I will have like something like the owner name or company or wherever, and this can be a string. And I'll have like, for example, let's say that I have drivers. So they are like a list of strings that are actually the drivers of my car. Sorry. So you can have like all types of data over here and the data types. And like I said, the data type is simply a variable which you have a variable inside a variable. So you have multiple variables in the variable. So when you have a car, when you have a particular car, you already know what are the doors, so how many doors that the car has, what is the color, who is the owner, who are the drivers of the car, and so on and so forth. And you can actually right now go to app state, and I can define my car over here. So for example, my car, and I should be able to see data type, and this will be a car, and this is the car that I have. And here I can say my car have 5 doors. The color of my car is this green, for example. The owner is the meter of the car, and the drivers. Let's say I am the driver. And let's say that I have one more driver. Let's say I have few drivers. Let's say that I have few drivers for my car, and I can save the car, and now I can use it through my app when I have it in the app state, right? And of course, this can be done in the page state, widget state, so to say, as well, component state. I have one error, which is the custom functions. I have to check for errors. Okay, great. Uh, and if I go back here, you can see that that means that you can use now the data type in the app page and component states and API variables. So API variables, what that means is if I go to the API right now and create a new API call, a simple API call called data type demo, I can have like an URL that it says, for example.com, and here the variables, I should be able to add my car, my own car, for example, and this could be, it should be possible to add data types over here and then send the data type. I don't see it right now in the dropdown, the type. I don't see it as a data type, but probably it's not where I'm looking at. Probably I'm not looking at the right place, or probably they haven't added yet. I'm not sure about it. Let me know in the comments if you have more information about it, or if I cannot find it. Okay, great. And then the last thing, it's much easier to use data types in custom code. Let me try and show you actually how you are supposed to use data types in your custom code. Let's say, for example, I create a new action, and let's say let's say that my action will be drive my car, will be the name of my action. I'll click on the boilerplate, click copy the code to the boilerplate. I don't need this anymore, and I will return my car. So let's say I want to return a data type. Actually, the best way to do this is using a custom function. I'm not sure if you're supposed to use custom function, if the custom function will actually work for that. Um, let's say my own drive my car, but let's try that, right? So let's try that if that works. If I want to return a data type, and this data type will be a data type of car. And let's say I want to actually get, let's say I want to get the doors, and this will be an integer. I want to take the driver, and this would be a string. And let's try to actually return it. I don't know if this will work, but let's try it out. So I will first need a no safety check. So let's say no safety. And then I will say if there are no doors. So let's say that if doors are no, I want my default doors will be 4. And if the driver is no, my default driver will be the meter. And I will actually return the data type, and the data type will be I'll actually create a new data type, which will be car strict, and then this will be my car and the data type will be equal to, and this will be car strict again. Now when I write car strict and just click control space, I'm actually getting all the parameters of my car. So I have the colors, I have the doors, I have the drivers, I have the Firestore utility data, and I have the owner. So I can actually click on core and actually pass the core. So let me pass the core because this would be probably this would be easy to pass the core. I'm not sure if I can write it right now like that. Let me just see. It wants a core, so I should be able to write core from RGB, for example, and then write core. So if you want to add a color, we can do it like with colors that, and then I can say what color I want, like color that black or blue, gray or wherever. And then if I click Control Space again, I have the doors, which are actually coming from the variable doors. And then I can use drivers, and this would be only one driver, which would be this one. And because this will be a single driver, I should be able to put it into a list, and this will be now driver into a list, and this should work. And then the owner of the car, let's say it's the same as driver in this particular case, and then I should be able to return this car. So if I save this and go to test function, and if I say my car will have 6 doors, for example, or let's say 2 doors, and the owner of the car will be, let's say, Alex, and let's run this and see if this will actually work. Because before that, it was not working. Yeah, it is. I'm actually getting an error because of the core. And I'm not sure if the core, this is the right way to set the core. So let me try to do the test one more time without the core, because I think in this particular case, the core is the reason why I'm getting this error. Yeah, and I'm actually getting instance of car strict, which is actually normal because we need a way to actually return this as a string, because there is no way to return this as a string if we don't actually rewrite or overwrite to string method. So it's supposed to work. It seems that it is working. So this is how you can use data type in your code, if you are wondering. Great. And let's move to the second one. Yes, before we actually jump to the next feature, actually compile the code and I got those errors, which is name parameter doors isn't defined, drivers isn't defined, and owner is defined. But this is actually not true, because if I command the doors, for example, and click Control Space, and I'm able to select doors, as you can see over here, which, like I said, it's not true. And I think this is because we're using a custom function and not a custom action. So if we are to convert this to a custom action, let's say my car, let's say, for example, and let's copy the code over here, and let's see if my theory is correct. Because right now, if I copy and paste the same code that I use for arguments, I use my doors, and this would be an integer, and for driver, I'll use driver. And I will return also, and I'll return the data type. The data type will be car, and I'll click on the green button again and copy and paste the whole lines over here, which should be they should go over here. Great. And then I'll need to return, and I'll return my car. So I have my car here, and this is called my car. Probably this drive my car or drive car will be better. So we could just have different names, and I'll just copy this code over here. Great. So let's save that right now, and let's try to compile this code and see if the code will actually compile. Let's click it one more time. And you can see actually here in the custom action, I used the same code and it was able to compile it without any issues. And actually here I can use the default covers from FlutterFlow, and to do that, I have to add the build context, and then I can use here. I should be able to say core, and then FlutterFlow, and then team dot, and then off, and then here I have to write context. Great, and then I can write dot. Then I can use like a primary, which is a core. So I can, for example, I can use the primary core of my FlutterFlow team for the core of my car, and I should be able to save that. And now I should be able to compile it, and this should work actually in theory. And what is this code doing? It is actually taking some parameters and then creating a new car based on those parameters, and then outputting it, like returning it. And you can use this is like a demo. How I showed you just how you can create your data type. So previously, I will just show you how was done this previously. So finally, the compilation is done, and you can actually see that there are no errors, and this code should work. And previously, like I said, it was a little bit different that how you create your and use your, or actually how you create your data types. So you had to actually use create car struct, and then you can see right now that when you use create car struct, you have a bunch of parameters which are create, delete, doors, and owner, and so on and so forth. And this is actually different than the car struct itself. I haven't actually tried that code, but you can actually try it. The code that I just showed you, you can actually try it and let me know if it actually works or not. Great. So let's move on to the second part right now. Okay, so the second new update is Custom Dialog Actions. So Custom Dialog Actions are previously, if I go back to my project, you can actually see I added a button, which is a menu. And if I open the action flow and just write dialog, you can actually see on the bottom we have alert dialog, and previously we only had informational dialog and confirm dialog, which were very limited because the informational dialog was you can just click OK. The confirm dialog, you have like yes or no, or confirm and cancel. So that was the only difference between the two of them. The one you can cancel and confirm, and the other one you can just click OK on it. And this one, it's a custom dialog. So we now have custom dialog, and when we use a custom dialog, we have a bunch of configurations that we can do, and we can actually use a custom component. we can create and use a component. We can select them from here. I don't have any components right now, but the whole idea is that you can select the component right now, and this will be custom, and everything could be custom inside it. And we have the width and the height. We have the barrier color. We have the dialog alignment. So the dialog alignment where to position this dialog within the screen or relative to the width that opens it. If aligned with the target widget is set to true. So I will talk about that in a second. And we have the horizontal and vertical, and I think those are in pixels. What you write over here, it's not written over here, but I suppose it is in pixels. And then you have non-blocking, which means wherever any subsequences actions should wait for this dialog to complete before processing. So if you actually have like a dialog popping up, and then after that you have 4 or 5 actions or one action, doesn't really matter. Do you want to block the main thread before the user actually confirm, for example, something, or press or enter something, and then continue the flow, the action flow? So that's why you have this blocking and no blocking, non-blocking. So by default, it will actually block, but if you want to, you can press or enable to non-block the main thread. And this can be, and they said also, this can be helpful if you want to use a dialog as a loading indicator while making an API call, for instance. So that is great actually, as well, to just know about that. And also you have non-dismissible, which means, of course, wherever tapping on the barrier will dismiss the dialog. So if you want to only dismiss the dialog with a button inside the dialog itself and not clicking away from the dialog, just enable this feature. And then the last one, which is align with the target widget, is actually wherever to align the dialog with respect to the target widget within triggered the open dialog action. So the whole idea is that if you enable this feature right now, and if I click on this dialog, it will actually open in the part I want. For example, if I want to open under my button, I can just press here, and this would be vertical one. Okay, so probably those are not pixels. Like I said, those are actually, it should be actually where do you want to open, like -1. So the variables here are from -1 to 1, and -1 means top, -1 means top left, and +1 means bottom right. So if you want to open uh, on the middle, on the bottom, just write nothing here on the horizontal, sorry, and 1 in vertical. Great. So that was actually the second feature that we wanted to talk about. Let me actually delete this action so I don't have any errors on my project. So let's go with the second style, which is the paste style. And let's go to my project and switch to my project. And right now, if I click on the right button, if my screen is like that on the scaffold and click on the right button, you actually not see this menu because I'm actually clicking on the scaffold and not on the button itself. But if I want to copy the style from the button, I am actually able to do it when I click with the left mouse button, and then I can see on the left side that I select this button, and then click with the right side button, and then click on copy widget style. So when I copy the widget style, again I have to click on the left with the left button, and then you can see that I select this style, and or I can paste it over here. I can paste it like this, or I can paste it on the left side. Is the same thing, and I can click paste style. So you can actually see when I paste this style over here, it's actually pasting the style with the text, which unfortunately is something that I don't want to happen. So I can actually show you right now how you can do it without copying the text as well. So how I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the right button again on the same button, and I'll click actually save as theme style widget, and then here I will say let's say orange button, and I'll save it. This will be the name of my theme, of my custom theme. And then if I go over here and click on the theme, you actually see that again I have the text copied, but in order to avoid that, I have to go to my themes on the left, theme settings, click on theme widgets, click on the button, and then click on this button over here. It's very important. Click on this button, which means that I will actually unlink the text. I don't need the text, and then save it. This means that I'll only copy the style and not the actual text. And if I click on the button again, click on the theme settings that are set already, click on the orange button, and boom, you can actually see that I only copied the style and not the text itself. So if you want to copy everything, including the text, you can copy the style, but if you don't want to copy the text, just create a theme style will be my suggestion. Great. And let's move to let's move on. Okay, great. So we're talking about custom breakpoints. I'm always saying that I'm not a UI or UX developer, but I can show you what that looks like. So if you go to the theme settings, and if you go to system design, the whole idea is that you actually have breakpoints for mobile, for tablet landscape, and for desktop. So the whole idea is that customize your breakpoints for responsive visibility. The previous breakpoint should be smaller than the next one. So what that means is that why we use breakpoints and where we actually using the breakpoints. Let's say, for example, I don't want this button to appear in the desktop mode. For example, I can actually click on the button, click on responsive visibility, and click and cancel the computer, or click on the computer, and now you can see it's a gray icon, and that means that this computer, if it's in the computer, if it's used in the computer, it will actually not appear when it's used in the computer. So this is actually a very simple use case of the breakpoints. There are actually a lot of different use case, but the simple one is that you can actually show the visibility of the in the different screens, and how you can actually set up your whole UI experience using those breakpoints. Great. Now let's move on. Okay, so let's move on. We are going to talk about AI generated theme covers, and it is about the AI Gen. And if we go to the FlutterFlow project, you can actually see the icon over here on the top left. Previously, it was on the top right. And if you don't have access to it yet, uh, it is probably coming. And there is a post in the community. You can fill for the wish list. Right now, it's currently in alpha, but I'm expecting this to go in beta really soon, so more and more people will actually have access to it. And let me show you how this works. You have to actually write a prompt. So a simple prompt can be something like a profile page with a picture and a button. Let's say this. It's a very simple. What I find out from my experience using the AI generator is that the prompts should not be very complex, and the best is to actually try with the simple prompts and then scale it for more complex prompts. And I see that they change actually a lot in the UI. of the actual creating the prompts, and you can actually see this was not one of the most successful prompts in the world, because in theory this should be like styled a little bit better, I guess. Probably I am the one who is to blame, because I already wrote a profile page with a picture and a button, but I'm not sure if that actually looks like a profile page, right? It looks like super simple, and it's only have a picture and a button. But that's why it's an alpha, right? They're still working on it. And the actual thing is that you have styles over here, so you can actually use styles, and you can use styles which are have text and also fonts and also styles, of course. But you can also create your own colors. So you can actually say like, create me an orange one, or create me an orange, or create me a blue like the sea blue, or I don't know, something like that. So you can just click enter. You have 400 characters, so you can write like a lot. But like I said, I think the simple prompts are better, and you can actually see the colors that were generated. And did they are blue, and I did they uh, look like the sea. So yeah, I think that turned out to be a successful prompt. But I don't think I really like. So I give like 1 or maybe 2 stars, because it really has a picture and a button, but it really doesn't look great, to be honest. And I'll submit it and then insert it to page. And here I can say like profile AI, because I will know that this will be an AI generated page. And it says here, do you want to update the entire project team? No, I don't want to. Let's save it and let's create it. And this is how it looks like, actually. What is strange is that this page does not actually have an so if I go to my homepage, for example, you can see that this page has an ad bar, but the new page, the new created page, does not have an ad bar. So if I write over here, profile AI, I should be able to add the navbar. Yeah, exactly. So I'm able to add the navbar, but I have to add it myself. So probably in the future, it would be great to actually add the custom navbar that the users use in their project. And yeah, there are so many things that can actually be done using the AI, I think. But that's the current state of the AI. And let's move on. Okay, great. So this one is Firestore Batch writes. So what that means is that batch writes allow you to group several write operations into a single atomic operation, ensuring all your data updates equally, either completely successfully or completely fail. With this feature, managing large data updates become much easier and efficient. And for example, if you are updating your user profile data across several related documents with batch writes, all those changes will either completely success or fail completely, preserving any partial updates. So I have another example, which is if you're using for a bank app or some kind of related to money, it's always great to actually batch update, right, or whatever your data, in order to actually knows that you know that all the operations are actually complete, and then update the price or update the quantity of the money that someone has, for example. So if we go back over here, and if I click on this button, which we just created, and click on add, let me show you how you can do that. So first of all, you have to add a bunch of operations, which in my case will be to create, let's say, in the files collection. And then I want to create one more, which will be uh, let's say, in the invoice items, and let's say I want one more, which will be update document, and I want to update the document, uh, and let's say I want a reference. I need a reference here, but I don't have a reference, to be honest. So okay, let's stick with those two. And here you have this new button, which is a new check that appears when you have more than one action, which is batch Firestore writes. And if I go to the I, it says execute Firestore write operations as a single batch, a batch of writes completely atomically and can write to multiple documents. The batch is written at the end of the entire action chain execution. And learn more about Firestore batches on this page over here. So this is how it works. It will actually check if this is correctly and this is correctly, and then you actually write it. If something fails from those two or three or four, wherever how many you have, it will actually not save this and it will not work. So this is how it works, the Firestore batch writes. It's research and says locating a special widget is as simple as typing in the name, no more endless scrolling or hunting through the long widget tree. And the other one is double click on into components. Want to make changes to a component, just double click the component and it will open for editing. So let me show you how that works. If we go back and if we actually go to the page that we just created, I converted the button into a component right now. And the whole idea is that if I want to search, for example, for the up bar, I should be able to say up bar and the up bar will appear. Or if I want to search for the component, I can say like sample component or sample button. In my case, I can click on it. And right now they say that if I double click on it, let me try that. I haven't tried that. So double click on the component. It will actually not work when you search for it. And that was my concern actually. If I don't search for it, you can see the components in blue, but if I search for it, it's in white. So if I don't search for it and double click on it, okay, it's probably, maybe the double click it's on the right side. Yes, so yeah, I was right. So not on the widget tree, you have to double click on the actual page itself. So sample button, this is the one, and you can double click and it will open the component. Then you can see on the top right that it says the component, and I can go back to the page that I was in right now, which is super great. It's super fast. It's like not searching for the component. Try to find it and then open it. This is super fast. You just double click on the component, edit wherever you want to, like edit the button to make me happy, for example, and then go back and you can see that is updated already. Great. Great. So let's move to the second thing. So we'll have variables are now automatically converted when you create a component. That's great. You can now set the grid view and structured grid view properties from variable. That's great as well. You can now use your keyboard to make quickly navigate in collections, tap and enter. You have the added ability to resize more widget visually. So you have the container, the image, the signature widget. Now, and let me just quickly show you how that works. If we have the grid one, the grid view. So if I click the grid view, you can now see all the variables like the cross axis count, the cross axis spacing, main axis spacing, child aspect ratio. We can all set up from variables right now. Previously, that was not possible. And then if we have the picture, you can now drag those to actually expand the picture and make it bigger, which is great. We previously didn't have that as well. And then we can move on. You can now swap to a given pixel or percentage of screen size when resizing a button. That's great. And then we have add an option to download all project assets regarding or wherever they're used in the project, uh, which is great. I'm not sure where this option is, but if I go to assets, probably it's in the asset one. I don't have any assets right now, but if I add some asset, yeah, I still don't see this option, to be honest, where you can download all your assets. Not sure where this option. If you know about it, let me know in the comments. But yeah, there is a little bit different right now because you can actually see that some of the assets are not used right now, and you can. The new thing is that you see the assets if they are like more than, I think, 20 megabytes or something like that. There will be a warning. And the whole asset thing is just you can search for the assets right now, and you can bunch delete the asset. So I'll just delete this asset right now. Great. So, and the last thing is we've updated media assets to make it easier to distinguish between project and team assets. I don't have a team account, so I cannot show you that, but you probably guess what it is. And then let me just go through the bug fixes real quickly because they're important as well. Fixed an issue where the video player continues to play after a user navigates to a new page. This was actually a long time, like 6 months or something like that, an issue, and I'm super glad that this is finally fixed because one of my apps actually was using the video player. And then we have the fix it an issue where the JSON list was not persisting, which is great. I love JSONs. I'm using API calls, so much appreciated. And then fix it an issue causing overflow in the radio button widget. Great. Fixing an issue causing custom functions and Cloud SQL. So we can actually see that the Cloud SQL is coming from this text over here. I don't have access still to the Cloud SQL, but in theory, if you have access, let me know because some users have access, some don't. It should be on the left side over here when it says super base. You should have those backends as well over here. But like I said, I don't have them. So if you have them, let me know. It's just interesting who have them, who has them, and who doesn't. And it says fixing an issue causing the video player not to refresh. And this one is fixing an issue with using timestamp data types in Cloud SQL. Again, we're talking about Cloud SQL. I don't have access to it. And then this one is fixing an issue causing icon button to reduce in size when using a loading indicator. And the last one is fixing an issue with choice chips to set from field, which I think it's much appreciated because I know that a lot of people are actually using choice chips. So that's why. And then the last thing is new features we're working on, which are the action components, which is reusable action flow. This is great. That means that we should be able to use action across our action flow, for example, and across our pages. We have the tooltip widget. So this will be a new widget. And then we have the directory organization for custom code. So in theory, in future, we should be able to add directories for the custom code. So that sounds great, actually. And there is some news that are not written over here, but I think I can tell you about that. That the new community is actually on the build, and we will actually have a new community very soon, and it will be much better than this one. So yeah, I think it will be great. And just before you go, first of all, thank you very much for watching this video. And thank you very much to actually stick it to the end, because not a lot of people are actually watching my videos until the end, and there was actually something wrong. I think there is something wrong with the YouTube algorithm, and my videos are not showing as much as before for some reason, and I don't have a lot of watches for my videos. But I have this site. I set it up for the 2,000 subscribers, and I'm very near by 2,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for every single one of you who actually subscribe to my channel. Thank you again, and have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.